Have you ever had that feeling the world is coming to an end? Dominic Strauss-Kahn probably did, but if you believe one radio evangelist and his followers, it's going to come to an end tomorrow. 89-year-old Harold Camping predicted the rapture way back in September 1994. But now he says this time he's absolutely sure. So, if you're worried about mailing that late credit card bill or returning that overdue movie, relax. You don't need to worry about it. Michael Shearer is Executive Director of the Skeptic Society, and I'm delighted to say that he joins us from Burbank, a very nice place to be, I assume, Michael, if the world's about to end.
Yes, beautiful day today, and the forecast for the weekend is good, assuming that there is a weekend. So,
depending on,
of course, we do have a lot of earthquakes in Southern California anyway, so it's hard not to predict that there might be an earthquake in Southern California.
Yeah, but this man isn't saying there's going to be an earthquake, and depending on one's beliefs, the world is either 6,000 years old or over 4 billion years old. Either way, where did Harold Camping come up with May the 21st as being the date when the world will come to an end?
Oh, he's got a fairly complex numerological thing where he thinks that the flood happened at a certain date, and then he adds the number of years minus 1 because there was no year 0, and he ends up at exactly 7,000 years from the date of the flood minus that 1, and you end up at 2011. And then he gets the May 21st date with another calculation having to do with the magic number 512, and you do some factors of that, and it's definitely a fudge factoring kind of thing. But the bottom line is that most Christians, in fact, believe that there will be a second coming. Most also say that nobody knows when that date will be. And there are a certain number of followers, though, of this guy and some others who actually think you can put a date on it. This is not new. The Jehovah's Witnesses had made probably the most predictions in history, a couple of dozen, starting in the late 19th century and all the way up through the 1970s, and they finally quit making specific predictions. And we have to remember it's not just religious people, too, secularists, people that have bomb shelters up in Idaho, storing gold and guns and food supplies in case the American economy collapses, or there's a nuclear war or global warming. There's a lot of different versions of this, but the narratives are always the same. That is, the world will end in my time, and I'm one of the few chosen ones that's going to come out the other end. So I call this the destruction redemption myth. The apocalypse is only the destruction part. The good part is the part that happens afterwards, heaven on earth, or the second coming, or a new earth that we're going to create, and it's always me, the person telling the story, that becomes the central focus of it, that I'm part of the chosen few.
But Michael,
so it's actually
Michael, haven't events this year, though, bolstered the confidence of some of the people making these predictions? We've had a tsunami, we've had horrendous floods last year, we've had a number of events that have led people to believe that some kind of Armageddon, some kind of Earth-based destruction is imminent.
Oh, indeed. I've gotten quite a few emails in the last few months going, hey, Shermer, maybe you better reconsider that end of the world Christian stuff, because look at all these things that have happened. Well, in fact, point of fact, statistically, these things do not happen completely perfectly randomly. There's clustering. If you throw up a bunch of pennies into the air, they will land on the ground and not be perfectly distributed on the ground. There'll be little clusters of them. And the same thing is true with earthquakes, for example. And again, in Southern California, you can go down to Caltech and look at their seismographs, and these earthquakes do happen in little clusters. Clustering is a normal part of statistical distribution. So by chance, there'll be slightly more wars and revolutions and earthquakes in this month than the next month. And once you start looking for the pattern, you will find it and connect it to something important to you, whether it's a biblical prediction or some secular prediction or whatever.
Okay, Michael. Well, I guess the important thing is that if the end does come tomorrow, you ought to be ready for Judgment Day. Michael Shermer from the Skeptic Society, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.